The morning mist clung to the Western Front trenches in 1918. A young German soldier pressed himself against the muddy walls. Artillery had finally ceased its relentless pounding. Silence stretched across no man's land like a held breath. Then American voices drifted through the fog. Something else came with them. A sound no European battlefield had ever witnessed before. The earth-shaking roar of a 12-gauge shotgun split the air. Screams followed immediately. Within heartbeats, more shotgun blasts thundered across the scarred landscape. Each explosion claimed 3 or 4 soldiers at once. This moment marked America's most shocking addition to trench combat. The weapon proved so devastating that it sparked diplomatic outrage from the German Empire itself. A humble hunting tool had evolved into the most terrifying close-quarters weapon of modern warfare. German forces who had survived poison gas and flamethrowers found themselves horrified by American pump-action shotguns. America entered the Great War in 1917. European armies had been trapped in trench warfare for 3 brutal years. American military minds studied this conflict with fresh perspective. They recognized immediately that narrow trench systems demanded different weapons than traditional battlefield rifles. Close-range devastation was needed, something that could empty a trench in seconds. William George Eager watched the war from Valdosta, Georgia. This mechanical engineer prepared a report in September 1917 that would revolutionize close combat forever. His concept was brilliant in its simplicity. Take existing sporting shotguns and modify them for military trench warfare. The Winchester Model 1897 became his chosen weapon. This pump-action shotgun had served American hunters reliably for 20 years. John Moses Browning had designed it. The same genius later created the M1911 pistol and Browning automatic rifle. Originally built for hunting, the Model 97 possessed perfect military characteristics. Its pump action fired as rapidly as soldiers could work the mechanism. An external hammer provided reliability in battlefield conditions. Most crucially, it lacked modern trigger disconnectors. Soldiers could hold the trigger down and pump continuously. This created slam firing mode. Continuous blasts poured from the weapon as long as ammunition lasted. Military modifications transformed the sporting arm into a fearsome war machine. Engineers added perforated steel heat shields over 20-inch barrels. Soldiers' hands stayed protected from burns during rapid-firing sequences. Bayonet lugs accepted standard M1917 Enfield bayonets. The shotgun remained deadly even without ammunition. Sling swivels allowed hands-free carry through trench systems. Shortened barrels maneuvered easily in cramped spaces compared to standard rifles. The ammunition created the real revolution. Each 12-gauge shell held 9 double-aught buckshot pellets. 9 separate projectiles fired simultaneously with every trigger pull. Trained soldiers using slam fire mode could unleash 6 devastating blasts within seconds. The result resembled handheld artillery directed at enemy troops. Single shotgun blasts neutralized multiple enemy soldiers instantly. This made the weapon exponentially more effective than rifles in close quarters. By April 1918, American forces deployed these modified shotguns on the Western Front. The weapon debuted at Seicheprey, France, during the first major United States infantry engagement of World War I. American soldiers immediately discovered their trench guns provided enormous advantages in close fighting. The psychological impact devastated enemies as much as physical destruction. European forces had never encountered such weapons before. Captain J.H. Hoskins of an American engineering company described the effectiveness to the Nashville Banner back home. The shotgun volleys completely surprised German forces. Every blast dropped 3 or 4 Germans immediately. terror gripped surviving enemies. They huddled closer together, seeking protection. This clustering made subsequent shotgun fire even deadlier. A vicious cycle played directly into the weapon's strengths. The trench gun proved especially effective during Belleau Wood in June 1918. United States Marines faced elite German shock troops there. Marines used shotguns to clear entire enemy trench sections systematically. This earned them a fearsome reputation among German forces. Some historians believe this battle contributed to legendary nicknames German troops gave Marines. American shotgun effectiveness stemmed from more than raw firepower. The weapon complemented existing tactics perfectly. Machine guns required fixed positions. Rifles demanded precise marksmanship. Shotguns excelled in the fluid chaos of trench assaults. American soldiers advanced through trenches, clearing them, room by room, with devastating efficiency. The weapon's spread pattern eliminated the need for precise aim in cramped trench confines. American forces utilized their soldiers' unique skills brilliantly. Many men assigned trench guns were experienced trap shooters and hunters from rural America. These soldiers brought lifetime shotgun experience to combat. Some reports suggest skilled marksmen stationed along front lines shot enemy hand grenades from mid-air. Such accounts remain historically difficult to verify completely. German reaction to these weapons was swift and unprecedented. Within months, captured documents and prisoner interrogations revealed the terror these weapons inspired. German soldiers had endured Verdun and the Somme. They had survived chlorine gas attacks and faced downed tanks. Yet they genuinely feared American shotguns. German military leadership was equally disturbed by weapon effectiveness. They expected American forces to carry standard rifles and machine guns, weapons they understood and had developed counters for. Shotguns represented something entirely different, a weapon that seemed to violate their understanding of proper infantry combat. The psychological impact extended beyond individual soldiers to affect German strategic thinking about American capabilities. By summer 1918, German forces reported disproportionate casualties when facing American units with trench guns. These weapons turned every American soldier into a devastating force multiplier in close combat. Single shotgunners accomplished what previously required multiple riflemen. This fundamentally altered the mathematics of trench warfare. Weapon effectiveness became so pronounced that German forces began targeting American shotgunners specifically. Intelligence reports suggested German troops received instructions to prioritize eliminating soldiers carrying distinctive weapons. This targeting often proved counterproductive. German soldiers exposed themselves to return fire while identifying and engaging shotgunners. The weapon's impact extended beyond direct combat effectiveness. The distinctive sound of American shotguns became a psychological weapon itself. The deep boom of 12-gauge blasts differed from everything else on battlefields. Rifles produced sharp cracks. Machine guns created sustained rattling. Shotgun reports were deeper, more primal, unmistakably different. German soldiers learned to associate that sound with devastating casualties and chaos. Perhaps most unsettling for German forces was how American shotguns negated defensive advantages developed over years of trench warfare. Protective barriers stopping rifle bullets proved less effective against buckshot spread patterns. Cover providing protection from single projectiles offered little defense against 9 simultaneous impacts. The weapons seemed designed specifically to counter defensive tactics that made trench systems so deadly. Reports of American shotgun effectiveness filtered through German military command. Debates began that would explode into international controversy. German military lawyers and diplomats examined international law seeking legal grounds to challenge weapon use. They found their answer in Hague Conventions governing warfare conduct. The stage was set for one of military history's most unusual diplomatic protests. Never before had a single weapon type prompted such response from a combatant nation. The German Empire had introduced poison gas, flamethrowers, and unrestricted submarine warfare. Now they prepared to formally object to American shotguns as violations of warfare laws. What followed revealed as much about warfare psychology as international law. Weapon controversy would persist long after guns fell silent. Military thinking and weapon development would be influenced for decades. But in those crucial 1918 months, as American forces pushed toward Western Front victory, their trench guns continued shocking and demoralizing German troops. German forces thought they had witnessed every horror modern warfare could produce. Their leadership now faced a decision: accept this new reality of American firepower or challenge the weapons legally on international stages. Their choice would spark diplomatic crisis, revealing deep tensions about warfare nature itself. The decision cemented American trench gun reputation as the Great War's most controversial and effective weapon. German protest was coming. It would shake foundations of how nations thought about war rules. American shotgunners had more work ahead. German troops would discover their shocking introduction to 12-gauge warfare was far from finished. September 14, 1918, arrived just 2 months before armistice ending the Great War. In Berlin, German military and diplomatic officials drafted one of warfare history's most extraordinary documents. What they prepared to send Washington revealed how deeply American shotguns had shaken German Empire confidence. The German protest arrived through official diplomatic channels. Swiss officials represented German interests in the United States. The message was brief but unprecedented in implications. Germany formally protested American Army shotgun use, citing claimed international law violations. The protest's most shocking aspect wasn't the legal complaint itself. It was the accompanying threat. German government declared that under warfare laws, every prisoner possessing such guns or ammunition would forfeit his life. Germany threatened to execute captured American soldiers found with shotguns or shotgun ammunition. This unprecedented escalation went far beyond normal prisoner of war protocols. Even brutal World War I standards hadn't seen such threats. German justification rested on Hague Conventions, Article 23, prohibiting weapons causing unnecessary suffering. German legal experts argued shotgun multiple projectiles and devastating close-range effects constituted cruelty, violating international humanitarian law. They painted the weapon as barbaric, designed for terrorizing enemies rather than legitimate military purposes. The protest's irony wasn't lost on American officials or international community. This complaint came from the same German Empire introducing poison chlorine gas at Second Ypres in 1915. Thousands of Allied soldiers died in agonizing chemical attacks. The same military force deployed flamethrowers, used serrated bayonets designed for maximum tissue damage, and conducted unrestricted submarine warfare against civilian ships. Germany pioneered many of the war's most horrific innovations. Yet they claimed American shotguns violated warfare ethics. American response was swift, decisive, and diplomatically devastating. Secretary of State Robert Lansing firmly rejected the German protest. Shotgun use was most assuredly not prohibited by Hague Conventions or any international treaty. American reply went beyond mere legal arguments. It exposed profound German position hypocrisy with surgical precision. American officials pointed out Germany's apparent international law concern was particularly remarkable. This came from a nation systematically violating virtually every other Hague Convention provision. The United States noted curious German humanitarian concern selectivity, especially given their extensive chemical weapon use explicitly banned by international law. The response essentially asked how Germany could object to shotguns causing unnecessary suffering, while simultaneously deploying poison gas designed for slow, agonizing death. Judge Advocate General Samuel Ansel crafted the formal American legal response. This became a masterpiece of wartime diplomacy. Ansel argued Hague Convention provisions aimed at cruelty and terrorism, not killing efficiency. He invoked the German word Schrecklichkeit, meaning frightfulness or horror. He pointed to saw-toothed bayonets, flamethrowers, and chlorine gas as examples of German weapons truly causing unnecessary suffering. Shotguns, by contrast, were designed for quick, decisive action rather than prolonged agony. American counter-threat was equally pointed. The United States warned that American prisoner executions for possessing shotguns would result in swift, severe retaliation against German prisoners in Allied hands. This was diplomatic language for a clear message. If Germany began executing American shotgunners, the United States would respond in kind against German captives. Reciprocal treatment threats quickly ended German talk of executing captured American soldiers. American newspapers seized the controversy with relish. They used it to highlight German hypocrisy and American military effectiveness. The New York Sun published typical response, noting how ridiculous the protest was from a government using every foul warfare means. The editorial sarcastically observed that poison gas inventors were now objecting to what they called a clean weapon. Beyond diplomatic sparring, the controversy revealed deeper psychological impacts these weapons had on German forces. The very fact Germany felt compelled to make such protests suggested shotguns were causing disproportionate damage to German morale and effectiveness. Military historians noted successful weapons rarely prompt such desperate diplomatic measures from enemy governments. Frontline reports continued pouring in, describing devastating American trench gun effectiveness. During Argonne Forest operations, American forces used shotguns to clear German strongpoints, resisting previous attacks. Weapon ability to neutralize multiple defenders simultaneously made it ideal for rapid advances characterizing the war's final months. German defensive positions withstanding rifle fire often crumbled quickly under shotgun assault. Peter Carney, National Sports Syndicate editor, wrote in 1918 that trench shotguns were America's greatest war contribution. He noted that through expert weapon handling, Germans learned Americans were coming. At first taste of pellets, Germans began whining and writing diplomatic notes calling Americans barbarians. Carney's assessment captured both weapon effectiveness and psychological impact on enemy forces. The controversy highlighted unique American warfare approaches. While European armies developed elaborate standardized tactics over trench warfare years, American forces brought innovation and adaptability to battlefields. Shotguns represented quintessentially American military thinking: practical, effective, unconcerned with traditional European military conventions. Americans willingly used whatever worked regardless of whether it fit established warfare patterns. By armistice signing on November 11, 1918, the United States had procured approximately 25,000 Winchester Model 1897 shotguns for military use. 20,000 were configured as standard trench guns. An additional 5,000 sporting models were converted through handguard, sling, and bayonet attachment additions. Weapons proved so effective that demand consistently outpaced supply throughout deployment. German threats to execute captured American shotgunners proved entirely empty. Historical records show no documented cases of German forces carrying out such executions despite formal threats. This failure to follow through on ultimatums further undermined German credibility. It highlighted desperation behind original protests. The diplomatic complaint was more about eliminating effective American weapons than genuine international law concern. However, controversy did have lasting effects on American military policy. United States military reportedly began censoring trench gun combat photographs to avoid further diplomatic complications. They prevented negative perceptions among allied nations, potentially uncomfortable with shotgun brutal effectiveness. While America stood firm on legal and moral justification for using these weapons, military leadership recognized value in avoiding unnecessary diplomatic friction with allies. World War I shotgun controversy legacy extended far beyond armistice. When the United States entered World War II, military planners remembered these weapon effectiveness. They began preparing for redeployment. Great War lessons informed American thinking about close-quarters combat in emerging conflicts across Pacific and European theaters. By 1941, following Pearl Harbor attack, American forces faced critical small arms shortages. Existing Model 1897 shotgun stocks were insufficient for wartime demand. Production ramped up on all shotgun types once more. Winchester responded by delivering both Model 1897 and Model 1912 shotguns. Both weapons saw continued exemplary service in the new war. World War II Pacific Theater proved ideal for shotgun deployment. Close-quarters combat in jungle environments, cave systems, and fortified positions played directly to weapon strengths. American Marines and soldiers found themselves fighting in conditions remarkably similar to World War I trenches. Rapid, devastating firepower at close range meant differences between victory and catastrophic casualties. On islands like Guadalcanal, Palaleo, and Okinawa, American forces used shotguns to clear Japanese bunkers and defensive positions with devastating effectiveness. Weapon ability to neutralize multiple defenders in confined spaces made it invaluable for Pacific campaign warfare. Japanese forces, like German predecessors, struggled to counter psychological and tactical advantages shotguns provided American troops. Model 1897 continued serving alongside more modern weapons throughout World War II. While M1 Garand rifles and Thompson submachine guns received more attention, shotguns quietly performed specialized roles in countless close-quarters engagements. Marines carrying these weapons became known for clearing enemy positions that stalled other units. They continued traditions established in French trenches. Psychological impacts extended beyond immediate tactical effectiveness. German prisoners of war brought to the United States during World War II often expressed amazement at American industrial capacity and material abundance. Many had been told by Nazi propaganda that America was weak and divided, incapable of serious military production. Reality they encountered challenged these preconceptions fundamentally. When German prisoners saw American civilians carrying shotguns for hunting and sport, it reinforced growing understanding of American military culture. Here was a nation where advanced military weapons were based on civilian sporting arms. The line between military and civilian capability was blurred in ways European armies never experienced. Shotguns became symbols of American military innovation and civilian foundation of American military strength. Stories of German prisoners working American farms during World War II reveal another dimension of cultural shock. Many prisoners were astonished by abundance they encountered in rural America, even under wartime rationing. They saw American farmers using the same basic weapon designs that devastated German forces in combat, now employed for hunting food and controlling agricultural pests. This civilian familiarity with effective weapons technology seemed to explain why American forces adapted so quickly to combat conditions. Controversy surrounding American shotguns ultimately revealed fundamental differences in how nations approached warfare and military technology. German reaction reflected more traditional European views of military conduct, emphasizing formal rules and established conventions. American approach prioritized effectiveness and adaptability, with less concern for whether new weapons fit existing acceptable military equipment categories. These philosophical differences extended beyond individual weapons to encompass broader warfare nature questions. Shotgun controversy foreshadowed many technological and ethical debates, emerging as military technology continued evolving throughout the 20th century. Questions about acceptable military force, how international law should adapt to new weapons, and civilian technology roles in military applications all emerged from this early confrontation. German shock at American shotguns' lasting legacy extends far beyond specific weapons themselves. It represents broader American military innovation patterns continuing throughout the 20th century and beyond. Time and again, American forces deployed weapons and tactics, surprising and dismaying enemies expecting more conventional warfare approaches. From World War I shotguns to precision-guided weapons of later conflicts, America consistently demonstrated willingness to challenge traditional military thinking. Today, Winchester Model 1897 trench guns are remembered as among their era's most effective and controversial weapons. Museums and collectors preserve these historic firearms as reminders of times when simple sporting weapons shocked empires and changed military thinking courses. Diplomatic controversies they sparked serve as case studies in how new military technologies challenge existing international frameworks and force nations to reconsider warfare nature assumptions. German troops first encountering American shotguns in 1918 trenches could never have imagined lasting impacts of their shock and fear. Their desperate protests and diplomatic complaints inadvertently created one of military history's most famous weapon controversies. In trying to ban weapons that terrified them, they instead ensured their place in military innovation annals and American military tradition. The story of German shock at American 12-gauge shotguns ultimately stands as testament to military innovation power to challenge established thinking and reshape battlefields. It reminds us that sometimes most effective military technologies emerge not from elaborate research programs or massive defense budgets. They come from practical application of existing civilian technologies to military problems. It demonstrates that in warfare, as in many other fields, American ingenuity and adaptability can produce results shocking the world and changing history courses. The boom of those shotguns in French trenches echoed far beyond Western fronts. Reverberating through diplomatic channels, military planning sessions, and consciousness of generations learning to fear and respect American military innovation. In the end, German protests against these weapons served only to highlight their effectiveness and ensure their place in military history as instruments of both tactical success and strategic psychological warfare. The young German soldier crouched in that muddy trench in 1918 witnessed more than just a new weapon. He witnessed the birth of a new kind of warfare, one where American innovation and determination would continue shocking enemies and changing battlefields for generations to come.